Okay, Happy New Year, everybody. Welcome. Thanks for joining us for the January 2017 version of Talk to Our Expert series. Okay, this is our agenda up on the screen. Let me see if I can, there we go. So as usual, these are the guidelines for today's webinar. We'd like to make this short and sweet. It'll be about 30 minutes. I am recording the session, so it will be up on our YouTube page later today. It's a short presentation. Please ask your questions in the chat window. I try to minimize all the cross-talking so that everybody can hear me clearly. And your questions do not need to be related to today's topic. Also, if you have suggestions for other topics that you would like us to do, you feel free to add those to the chat window or send me a short email, and we'll see what we can do to cover the topic that you would like to do. Today's topic is about giving external users access to Merlin and different ways to do that. And so we're going to talk about using user filters to control what people can see and what they can do. And also, we're going to talk about the Merlin order form, the recipient workflow, and then, of course, we're going to take your questions. So let's talk first about user filters. You can put a filter on a group that will prevent users from seeing content. Now, out of all of the things we talk about today, this is the one thing that still must be done by the MerlinOne customer service group. Okay, so if you would like to have a filter put on a group to control what users can see, let us help you with that. Let me talk about that a little bit more and explain it in more detail. Basically, I can set up different classes of users, make them a member of a specific group, and as a member of that group, I have permission to see certain types of content. In fact, we set up one of our customers today. They like to include both raw camera files and JPEGs in their Merlin system, but they don't want the general users to see the raw camera files because they wouldn't know what to do with them. They're so large and they require special processing in order to be able to use them. So they want to archive those raw files in Merlin, but they train of thought left the station, but they only want them to see their JPEG files, okay, and not the raw camera files. And so we set up a filter that limits that class of users to only seeing files that end with the .jpg extension, and they're forbidden from seeing other types of files. Deborah asked us a question, what version of Merlin does this work on? What I'm describing right now works on any version of Merlin. So this is this particular thing that I'm talking about applies to any version of Merlin across the board and applies to both the rich client for people that are using the rich client and the web client. Okay. In the case of some of our customers, and Deb, you'd be one of those customers, you can actually set up your own filters in the Merlin console, and that might be something that you're already familiar with doing. You might have done that in the past. You can also filter on users, specific users or groups, to prevent people from downloading content. Now, what I'm describing right now works only for folks that are using the new Merlin X web browser client, and I know we're still getting that rolled out to a lot of customers, and I know some of you on the call today have recently had Merlin X installed on your servers, and we can talk about that later. But you can filter on both the individual user or the group and prevent them from downloading it. For example, I might be able to log in and I'm only allowed to download content with my name in the byline field, or I'm only allowed to download content that's been marked as approved, and other content I'll get a message saying I'm not allowed to download that content, and the message will also include some contact information on who I need to go see. So Maria asked the question, are filters different from an unapproved image? Well, actually, that is a type of filter. So you could say, yes, I'm allowed to see approved images, or I'm not allowed to see approved images, or vice versa. So you can set it up either way, and I hope that makes that clear. This user group and preventing download could be based on any field. Okay, and you can also set it up so that users may be prevented from editing metadata. So for example, once I'm done as a librarian or as a content reviewer or curator, I've marked content that, hey, this has the perfect metadata in it, nobody else should touch it from now on. People can be blocked from editing metadata on certain items based upon, again, any metadata field that you want, whether it's the approval checkbox or the protect checkbox or another checkbox field that you might want to use. You can prevent users from editing metadata even if they have metadata editing privileges. So this is in addition to the basic privilege, am I allowed to edit metadata at all? And now I'm filtering that down. Yes, I'm allowed to edit metadata, but I'm only allowed to edit metadata on specific content. So let's take a look at how that might look. So this is a screenshot of our Merlin X web interface, and I'm looking at a group called that's named Approved Only. Okay, and if I'm a member of the group Approved Only, you can see I've got some filters down at the bottom of the screen. There's a search filter that says I can only see content where the librarian checkbox has been set to checked or true. So that's the search filter. Okay, the download filter is set to, hey, I'm only allowed to download data if the byline field does not equal my name. Okay, so I'm able to download other people's metadata, other people's content, but I'm not allowed to download my own content because of the way this filter has been set up. Similarly, with the edit filter, I've set it up so that I'm only allowed to edit metadata for content newer that's been entered since 10/15/2014. So that's the in date field. So I can edit newer content. I'm not allowed to edit older content, and that's the date that's the cutoff date for that particular thing. Okay. So, I'm sorry, I should have come here next. This is a close-up of that lower part of the screen that shows the filters. So the librarian is set to true, and the byline field is not equal to my name, and the edit filter is set to anything greater than, anything newer than 10/15/2014. So that's a little bit about user filters. And you can see this is where you can actually set up user filters in the MX web client, and you can see I've got a number of user filters here. So for example, you can see the very first one, the group is approved only, and you can see my name in the byline field. Okay, but if you go down to the next item, it's actually by the individual user. And so you can see that it's a download filter, that's the filter type that's been selected, and the user C. Forber is also restricted to only downloading content that does not equal my byline name. And so when you're setting this up, you can actually click the count button on the right-hand side, and that verifies that you've created a valid filter, that the filter will work. And if it's not a valid filter, it will give you a message on what you could do to correct the filter. Maybe you forgot to put the quote signs around it, or maybe you didn't use a legal name for the field in Merlin. So that's how you might set this up. So this is a way to control what users might be allowed to see, and we're going to use this to build on what we're going to do next. So let's talk about the order form. Okay, in the order form, if a user has the order form configured, they'll be presented with a shopping cart icon instead of a download icon. Okay, once they place an order, the orders will be sent to the order administrator, and the orders get organized into a special collection folder. Okay, so let's walk through that a little bit. Okay, I have a question. If we allow contractors into Merlin, would we set up a filter for what they're looking for so our photos are protected? Yes, that's exactly what you would do. Now, in your case, Deborah, since your Merlin is on-prem, in order for contractors to log into Merlin, they would need to either be on your network, so they would need to be working on your network, or you would need to open the appropriate ports in your firewall to allow them in from the outside. And of course, that's something you would want to discuss with your security people to see if that's something that you want them to do, but that's how you would manage that. And of course, if your Merlin were hosted, that's not an issue because your Merlin doesn't have that corporate firewall in front of it. So this is how you create a user group that allows people to have access to the order form. So in the admin area of the Merlin X web client, where you create and set up your groups, you can see that I've got a group here that's named order_demo, and I've checked the box that's next to order form. And what that means is that if I'm a member of the group order demo, when I log in, I will be presented with a shopping cart in my web client rather than a download button. Okay, and so the shopping cart appears in the toolbar instead of the download or export button. And when someone selects a number of photos and selects the shopping cart, they're presented with a form to complete. Now, this form is configurable, and you can choose to make fields mandatory, and you can choose to change what you see here. So if you want to have different comments, you can see at the top I've got text, and at the bottom I've got text. This is the delivery option text. You can add text there, and it can be anything you want it to be. You could say, please contact so-and-so in the library if you've got questions about this, and here's the phone number to call, and you can add that. This is all customizable. Okay, so anytime you want to do that, you can customize this form. Okay, and then once a user fills out the form, here's what happens. An email will be sent to the order administrator. Okay, so someone is designated as the order administrator, and they will get an email, and you can see here this is the order that was placed. And the other thing that happens, so we make it real easy to fulfill the order, is in the collections or projects area, there will be a new order folder created in the shared area. Now, the only person that sees this is the order admin. So not everybody will see the order folder, only the order admin will see it. And you can see inside of the order folder, I've got 3 requests that have been made, one back in 2015, one back in 2014, and one that was made this morning. That's the second one. And so all I have to do is double click on that order, and it will show me all of the content that I ordered earlier today, and then I can choose to fulfill the order by basically selecting all of the results and emailing the results, emailing a download link to those results to the person that placed the order. So it's that simple. Merlin does not handle financial transactions. So any financial transactions in terms of people paying for orders or things like that would need to be handled outside of Merlin. So you would need to handle that in some fashion. So that's a little bit about setting up the order form so that outside people, you create a user and give them access to log in. One of our customers, the Nebraska Game and Parks Commission, has set it up so that anybody from the public may log into their Merlin system and see content that's been approved for external users, and then they can place orders. So that's a nice thing that they've done. The other way to give content to external users is using the recipient workflow. And this allows you to assign content to a specific class of users, and it's based on a special group that you've configured, and I'll show you that. And you control the other privileges that they have. So the recipient user might be entitled to download content, or they might not be, and again, you would control that. So let's take a look real quickly. So the way you would give an external user access to very specific content is that there is a field in Merlin called recipient, and you can see that down at the bottom of my metadata panel that I'm showing you here. And so I've added in the name of a user. So this is a username. The user is DGB2 in this case. And so when user DGB2 logs into Merlin, they only see content with their user ID number in the recipient field. And you can have multiple recipients. So if I wanted to give recipients, for example, I wanted to give Deborah access to content, I could add Deb's username to this as well. And so that would be real easy to do. So you add the recipient field. In order to make this work, again, we're going back to the admin area of Merlin, and we're going to the user group part of the admin area, and you can see I've got a group that I've labeled recipient download. Now it could be labeled anything you want it to be, but I've labeled it recipient download so it's something meaningful. It tells me that it's a recipient's group and that they have download privileges. But the label is just a label. What gives them download privileges is in the entitlements, I've given them download privileges, and you can see that where it says output download. And in the name configuration, I've checked the recipient box, just like earlier for the order form, I checked order form. In this case, I checked the recipient box. And so it's that checkbox that makes it so that if I'm a member of the recipient download group, I only see content that's been given to my specific username. So it's that simple. So those are the things I wanted to show you today. Again, short and sweet. If you've got any questions about this or any other thing, feel free to type them into the chat window.